What up, fight fans, and holy ish, please tell me you did not miss UFC 238 last night, because we got some spectacular fights. Let's start with Shevchenko versus Ai, because that head kick was insane. Earlier in the fight, Valentina had struck Ai with a similar kick to the body, but in the second round, Ai left her hand a little too low, allowing Valentina the opportunity to strike that savage head kick. The sound was audible. After it happened, Ai did slump down a bit. She kept her balance for a couple of seconds and then finally fell backwards. She was out cold, and for much longer than usual, to the point that the cameras were actually avoiding her. Overall, I do think that Shevchenko performed well. Her takedowns were beautiful and efficient. She maintained great pressure in Ai's half guard during the first round, and I was actually starting to think that we might get a submission, maybe a head and arm choke, as Shevchenko was isolating Ai's arm, but I was not disappointed with the outcome. I mean, that head kick was so savage, the president of Kyrgyzstan called her after the fight. I think we are witnessing an extremely dominant champion in the women's flyweight division. We may very well be entering the Shevchenko era for that division, and even in her post-fight interview with Joe Rogan, she did say that the women's flyweight division is going to be the place to watch for developments and action in women's MMA, in the UFC, and really at large. And if she keeps putting on performances like that, I do believe that she will be able to help this progress. I also think that she has the potential for having such major star power. If you follow her on Instagram, then you will see that she is loved and has an extremely engaged fan base. And on top of that, clearly she is talented. She has won 7 fights via submission, and as we all saw, she can get the knockout. And on top of that, as you also did see in her post-fight interview, she speaks 3 languages, and well, that opens her up to connecting with so many more people, opens her up to many more markets, and that overall will help progress the sport as a whole. One of the most highly anticipated fights of the evening was that of Cerrone versus Tony Ferguson. This was slated as a #1 contender fight, with the winner fighting the victor between current lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov versus the interim lightweight champion Dustin Poirier. Cerrone and Ferguson gave the world of MMA a gift. Both fighters came into the fight seeking that title shot, and at the end of the day, Ferguson triumphed and showed that he is truly the better fighter. During the first round, Cerrone did try to impose himself on Ferguson. He wasn't extremely dominant, but he did put in enough work to take the first round, in my opinion. The second round, however, was way more intriguing. Ferguson likes to strike from a variety of different angles, but however, it was a slew of jabs that really did the majority of the damage on Cerrone. It was a barrage of jabs that just came straight down the pike that Cerrone had absolutely no answer for, and that left him with an almost shut eye by the end of the round. Now, there was some controversy surrounding the fight, as Ferguson did punch Cerrone after the bout at the end of the second round. Many people, including those who booed him after the fight, do think that it contributed to the early stoppage of the fight. However, I completely disagree. If you were watching the fight, and maybe you did notice that by the end of the second round, Cerrone already had a pretty swollen eye, and it was almost shut. Now, I think that the fight would have gone in Ferguson's favor either way. He had these slew of jabs that Cerrone had absolutely no answer for and did not adjust for. So ultimately, I do think that the fight would have ended in Ferguson's favor. Then, in between the second and third rounds, Cerrone blew his nose, which led to his eye becoming swollen shut, which ultimately did lead to the stoppage of the fight. So that illegal punch at the end of the second round really had nothing to do with the stoppage of the fight, and in his post-fight interview, Cerrone even stated that that illegal punch didn't really cause much more damage anyway. Ultimately, though, I do think that we should give Ferguson a break on this one. He's not a dirty fighter, and he does not have a history of punching after the bell. Ultimately, I think we should know that 1, Cerrone was beaten by the better man. 2, us, the fans, witnessed an extremely high caliber MMA fight. And 3, Ferguson deserves a shot at the lightweight title. So, Cejudo versus Moraes. Coming into this main event, I was only mildly interested. Yes, I wanted to see who would end up with the bantamweight title, but I wasn't excited. But that completely changed by the end of the first round. Now, as the fight was going on during that first round, it really looked like Cejudo was being outclassed. Moraes was quick. He was throwing that leg kick out of nowhere, absolutely no setup. But Cejudo was able to turn it around. The fight started to look a little less technical and more like a brawl. He ended up changing the pace of the fight. In the second round, Moraes started to slow down, and in the third, Cejudo was able to secure that TKO. It's that readjustment that makes him a champion. You spend 8 weeks developing a game plan, and in a matter of minutes, it goes out the window, and you have to readjust. Not a lot of people can do that, and this is a well-deserved double champ moment. And of course, you cannot forget that he is an Olympic gold medalist, which he made very clear in his post-fight interview. Cejudo has made history by becoming the first Olympic gold medalist to become a double champ in the UFC. We have witnessed a man reach new heights in combat sports. He called out some really familiar names in the bantamweight division, such as Dominic Cruz and Uriah Faber, who is coming out of retirement, and it sounds like he is planning on steamrolling that division, which I am here for. Now that he is the bantamweight champ with a huge focus on that division and with aspirations to move up to another weight class, history would lead us to believe that he would be getting stripped of the flyweight belt. That happened to Conor McGregor, and it happened to Daniel Cormier. However, Amanda Nunes is still reigning champ in both the women's bantamweight division and the women's featherweight division. Now, I think this is due to the fact that the women's featherweight division isn't really being formed, and the men's flyweight division is in a similar bit of a limbo situation. So actually, I would not be surprised if Cejudo was able to maintain that flyweight belt, but it does also kind of lead me to ponder as to whether or not we are witnessing the end of the men's flyweight division. All in all, this was a phenomenal card. Let me know what you all thought of the fights below. And as always, don't forget to give this video a like and to subscribe for more content. I'll be seeing you in the next one. Bye.